Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So let's begin with our day, which I believe is very intense. Today's post for me was like, wow. Even that I was writing it, it was intense. So I don't know, maybe for some of you it's like, oh yes, normal, but for me it was shocking. So I don't know. So I will try to explain the information post for today, but um, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it properly. So if you want to know more about it, I recommend you to read the post, um, just in case. When I knew that this week would be all about questions, I thought that what I'm gonna write about the questions. I don't have much in my head, but it's really been intense. So let's begin by the easy. What is the meaning of who and where it comes from? Topic for today, the question is who? And from where it comes, who? Exactly as all the other questions from Indo-European language quo. But quo means object, okay? Is the object, the matter of the question, quo. So who transforms itself into a subject, okay? A subject. And for that, we have to add one M. So it's quom, which in English you have whom. That would be. So when we speak quo, is about the object, the thing. Like this here, this is an object, a physical thing that you can perceive by the five senses. But when I transform an object into a subject, this means that suddenly I give a meaning to this and I give a soul to this. I create the idea of a soul. So I also give a personality to this. Remember that the question what? The question what is the object, and the question who is the subject. So the difference in these two is that the object describes the physical aspect of something, and the subject is describing the invisible aspect of a thing. But both of them are speaking about the same. Yeah. So now, let's talk about this here according to an object and according to a subject. So from the point of view of an object, this here is a dot. From the point of view of the subject, this is unity. So a dot can be something that you can refer to in a physical way. The subject, unity, is not. You cannot relate it to exactly physical, it's a concept. From the point of view of an object, we have 5 dots. Okay, 5 dots. If I connect the dots, I have a star. But all this is just the object because I'm just perceiving 5 dots and the shape of a star. Where is the subject? So where is the subject here? The subject is when I connect all of this in this star, and we call it pentagramma. A pentagram related to the 5 elements. Witchcraft, alchemy. The object is the five dots that creates the star. The subject is the information behind and body in this object. Okay? What do I have here? So here, what we have? 5 dots. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What are they? Tiny parts. We call that particles. Particles come from the Latin tiny, culae, parts. Tiny parts. And now what happens if I do this? It becomes an atom. Okay. A conjunction of atoms, what it forms. Many atoms, what creates? A molecule. Molecule is a tiny, big part. Mole. A huge part. Then I have something a little bit much complex. Which is organs. Now, the object and the subject. So the object, what is the object? The object is a conjunction of atoms that makes molecules that shape organs. Hmm? Yes? And what subject? The subject is the person, the soul, the spirit, the beliefs, the emotions. Hmm? So, what we have here in the object of this being is all perceivable by the physical. Okay, it's an objective, it's something that you can measure by the five senses. And the subject are untouchable things, things that you cannot measure, that are impossible to know. The person, the soul, the spirit, the beliefs, the emotions. This one from here is called what, and this one from here is called who. Let's go to the next step. Do you remember everything that we have learned about the five senses? Five senses: eyes, smell, eyes, nose, ears, mouth, hands. So the sight, smell, taste, hearing, and touch. So now remember that each one of these senses are receiving data from the outside, sending this information to the brain, and the brain interprets these pulses. Remember that everything that we perceive from the outside is just a perception of the understanding of the brain. That's it. Okay? So this is a perfect system of interpretation. What do you see here? There are many possible answers of what you see here. Let's say some of them. 7 dots. So here we can see many different things in this shape. So here we can see 7 dots, a cube, an hexahedron, a skull, a flower, a star, a Merkaba, so anything that you see here is only an interpretation of your brain, is subjective, which means that it is tied to a subject, which is according to your way of interpretation of your brain. So the only thing that there is here is 7 dots made by the ink of this pen. That's the only thing. That's the object. Only one thing. All the other things that you said are subjective. They are not real. And usually we're gonna see what our brain is usually thinking about. So remember why these ideas are subjectives and you cannot see exactly the object. It's because our brains are designed in order to connect dots. It needs to end and close the shape. We are designed for that. Because our brains are designed in order to close the idea of something, we are never seeing the reality. We cannot see the right thing, the objective things. Because when we see something, we are always in lack of information. So our brain, according to its own ability, will try to close and wrap up the idea so it can keep going. This is why the reality is subjective. And because of this natural way of closing the ideas of our brain, every time that usually humans does the question or wants to know the origin of all things, instead of doing the question what, we do the question who. Who created us? Who am I? Who is God? What are they? They are subjective questions. Questions are subjective because who is a mental construction. So as I said in the post, basically what we are, every living existence in the universe, is only a conjunction of atoms, of molecules, of particles that sometimes behave as particles, sometimes as waves in dimensions. We are kind of an hologram that we don't really exist. It's just a perception of the mind. So is the universal mind the one that connects the dots to create a meaning of a who of what we are, the idea of what we are. So what is Matias here? I am basically a conjunction of particles that moves through waves in different dimensions according to different wavelengths of frequency. That's what I am. That was what is Matias. But who is Matias? Who Matias is the interpretation of the links that the mind does according to the order of those particles. Who am I? I am the interpretation of the order between those particles. This is why when I die and my particle starts to expand again, I stop being Matias. I expand myself and I become many other things. What I am is interpretation of my own mind, but also what I am, who I am, is an interpretation of your mind. So that's why to the question, who am I? Who is God? The answer will be always subjective. So now, what is next? That, as you have seen, I try to go from the most simple things to a bit more complicated to understand a person. So now, when we try to go beyond a person, we go into another dimensions, we go into the masters, the ascended masters, we go into guides, angels, demons, archangels, potads, everything that you could possibly imagine. They are subjective. They are not real. But those beings are not real in the same way as we are not real. They are not real in the same way as we are not real. When you see into your body, you are made up with atoms, particles, molecules. So imagine that the body of an archangel is made up with stars instead of molecules. From the point of view of an atom, a human doesn't exist in the same way as from the point of view of a planet, an archangel doesn't exist. Picture the idea of one of the main archangels, which is Uriel. Uriel comes from the two words Ur and El. El meaning the verb of creation, which is the vibration itself, and Ur meaning light. So Uriel means the vibration, the divine vibration that moves the light. So it's basically describing the movement in waves of the energy in the universe. So the objective thing of Uriel is the movement of the energy in waves. That's Uriel. The subjective idea of the archangel Uriel is the image that we have, of this being like a person, a personification of that light. And this that I am explaining is not against the idea that they exist. It's not against the idea of channeling, against the idea of being able to see them. But in order to understand this, you have to pay attention to what I am trying to say, instead of trying to listen what you want to listen, which is really difficult because everything is subjective. Why can I channel the Archangel Uriel? Because Uriel is light. And we are made of light, of photons. So whatever particle that is going around in the universe, bringing information, data through the particles of light, can be downloaded by my magnetical field, activating information, and that's channeling. So why can I see an archangel or a being from another dimension? Because when that information comes to me, my brain will try to find a way to close the image of that data in order to see that information. And of course, it will use data that you already have within, which is people, masters, beings in which you believe. So why is so important the question who? Because the question who is the one that helps us to understand the evolution of data in the universe. Is the one that helps us to understand all the information that is in the network. Remember that culturally, the reason why we speak about gods, divinities, archangels, and angels is because we had no other way to explain how the universe was working. So we use those words. Today we can say wave instead of spirit. We can say energy instead of soul. We can say hologram instead of paradise. So the only thing that changed is really the words, but the content is the same. So is this now, this information pushing you to not to believe in archangels or angels? Not. You can still believe in anything you want. It's just another tool to understand a little bit wider why you can believe in them. The subjective question, who, is the one that helps us to put a meaning, a unity in the things that objectively are separated and we cannot understand them. So I was explaining all this regarding the archangels today in the blog because there's one archangel that its name is Michael, that means who like God, who like the creator. So the reason why this being, Michael, does the question who like the creator is because someone before, Samael, the gravity of the creator, did the question who like me? Who like me? So the reason why this Samael, the gravity of the creator, does this question is because the gravity is the one that unifies all the other potentialities of the universe and makes it tangible, touchable. Why? Because of gravity. He's the gravity of the divine. So this means that all the other potentialities are bounded by time and space, creating an individual. So it creates something new. And now pay attention here. I'm not speaking about good beings or bad beings, archangels, angels, seraphims, or I'm speaking about gravity, unifying time and space in one. Creating an individual, making the manifestation of the divine dream. So this is the one that can download and manifest time and space and create the self, the ego. The ego is the one that can relate itself according to only one time and only one space. So this densification and manifestation of the dream has someone against. Because when someone was asking, who like me, because it's the only one to create and manifest something, we have the other one against that says, who like the am, who like the entire being that we are, trying to remind that other being, trying to remind it that the manifested ego is just a tiny part of the real being that we are. So this individual being that separates from the whole becomes a subject. And because it becomes an individual, a subject, a self, it starts to exist according to the beliefs of what it is and not by what it really is. Subject is I believe. So this makes that ego starts to live their life, its lives, according to their beliefs and not according to their essence. This is why there's the other face, Michael, that asks who like the divine, who like the creator, to remind us that the ego is just one tiny thing in all the creation. And this is what we call the fight against the good and the bad and the evil. And that's why we have demonized the ego. This ego and this verb are the I and am. So in order to really be connected to the divinity, we have to connect to the I am. And now we have a war against one to another, a war between I and am. Let's go again. Remember, what are this? Love, wisdom, and will. What else we have here? Vibration, energy, and matter. 6 archangels. And then we have gravity, which is the one that unifies all things in the center, the ego. So the ego asks the question, who like me? So it goes outside, creating its own system. This one here, the ego, is the one against, in the opposite side of the one ask who, like the creator. So we have two questions here: who, like me, from the ego, and who, like the creator, from the self. I and am. Opposite, contrary, in Hebrew is shaitan, that means Satan, is the opposite one. So shaitan and Michael fight one to another, trying to find the balance between both of them. And all this that we have here is a cube. So what we have here, the cube, the hexahedron, the one that unites all the powers to connect us to the divine, to the creator. What is this? The cube is the one that in Greek language they call Metatron, which means the one that is close to the throne. Metatron. Metatron is a Greek word that means closer, who is closer to the throne. So who is the one that is close to the throne? The one that gets to balance the two forces of I and am with the 6 attributes around. This is the source, the force of all things. And the funny thing of all this is that the way in which the ancient language used to call the force of the things was Shaddai. So may the force be with you. Who is the subjective question? We are just an idea. So whoever doesn't know what is a Jedi, I invite you to see Star Wars from George Lucas, and maybe you will get better what is the Force and all this. Metatron cube. So let's go to the alignment. The vibration for today is Gil. The statement for today is I am the vision of the self. The code for today is Hydra. The great aquatic monster that scares the sailors is a dragon from Greek mythology that unifies the strengths of several animals with the mind of a serpent. The hero must defeat it, but killing it would imply to create more and more of these creatures. Its body represents the emotions and potentialities that one must know how to use. For that, control it, but don't destroy it, or you'll end up losing. Let's go to alignment. Sit comfortable, close your eyes, and concentrate in your breathing. I become aware of the space I find myself in, the body I find myself in, and concentrate, taking deep breathings. I concentrate upon my head, a light of my consciousness, a divine spark, and I activate it, ignite. I descend the divine spark to my crown chakra. With deep breath, I ignite this spark throughout my crown. And I activate in its light the question, who am I in my beliefs? Ignite. Breathe and descend this divine spark to your third eye in the center of your head. With deep breath, I activate this divine spark, expanding throughout my eyes and my brain. And in its light, I activate the question, who am I in my thoughts? Ignite. I descend this divine spark to my throat chakra. With deep breath, I activate this spark throughout my throat. And in its light, I activate the question, who am I in reality? Who am I in this truth? I descend this divine spark to my heart. Taking deep breaths, I expand this divine spark in many, all throughout my heart. And through its light, I activate the question, who am I in my emotions? Breathe and ignite. I descend this spark to my plexus. Taking deep breath, I expand this divine spark in all the directions of my being. And in its light, I activate the question, who am I? Ignite. I descend this divine spark to my sacrum. Taking deep breaths, I expand this divine spark throughout all my creative center. And in its light, I activate the question, who am I in this creation? Ignite. I descend this divine spark to my root chakra. Taking deep breaths, I expand this divine spark throughout my genitals. And in its light, I activate the question, who am I in this world? Ignite. I descend this divine spark to my knees. Taking deep breath, I expand the light of this divine spark throughout my knees. And in its light, I activate the question, who am I in this path? Ignite. I descend this divine spark to my feet. Taking deep breaths, I expand this divine spark throughout my feet and ankles. And in light, I activate the question, who am I here and now? Night. I expand this divine spark throughout all the directions from my body. I am the vision of self. I am the vision of the self. I am the vision of the self. I am, I am, I am. I start to stretch and yawn, bringing all this consciousness throughout the body, coming back here and now, each one at its own time. Thank you, everybody, for being here, as always, and see you tomorrow at the same time.